want to sell your home in 2026. By the end of this, you will understand the full process from start to finish and all the tips and tricks that the industry won't tell you. Let's get started. As you'll know, selling your home really isn't something that you wish to do very often. It's quite a stressful process. It can be exciting, as I say, stressful, and everything else in between. Generally, people will do it once every maybe 10, 20 years. Sometimes we have people only selling once in their lifetime. So it's not something everyone is clued up about. I feel like the industry wants you to, or treats you like you should know everything inside out. Hopefully in this video, that will clear a lot of those points up for you. So chapter 1 is the valuation. So the valuation is where you will get an estate agent round to your house, you'll give them a tour, and they'll be able to tell you approximately what your home is worth. This is needed because it's really important for you to get an understanding of what your home is worth in the current market. So there's a lot of people who may think their house is worth 500,000 when in actual fact the home is worth 450,000. So it's really important to make this right at the beginning of the process so that you understand and you know whether you can move and what you're likely to achieve. So the valuation figure is based on 3 things. Number 1 is the location of your property. So this is based off where it is, what local amenities there are, and what sales there has been in the local area recently. Number 2 is the condition of your home. Of course, a property that is in absolute show home condition is going to be priced differently to a property that needs a full rip out or anywhere else in between the two. And number 3 is size. So the size of your home is really, really important. If you think about anyone that's looking to buy a property, one of the first things they're going to look at is what's the square footage, what plot size does it sit on? Has it got any acres of land? How many bedrooms and everything? So really, really important to determine what value your property is. So it's really important to get your valuation done at the very beginning of the process because this valuation will let you know, 1, whether you'll be able to move or not, which is going to be really important, but 2, also all the other factors after this will rely on this valuation figure to progress on to the next stages. So people often ask, can I get more than one valuation? And the answer to that is absolutely. You can get as many valuations as you want, as many estate agents out to value your property. But what I would always recommend is to stick to 2 or 3. What happens when you get 2 or 3 estate agents out is generally you'll get a range in valuations. For example, you might get the first agent that will come out at 450,000, maybe the second agent will come in about 485,000, and then you might get the third agent completely blowing everyone out the water and coming in at 500,000. But just be careful because if you get too hung up on the higher valuation figure that's not backed up by real evidence, then you could be in danger of going with a higher valuation figure, then the property goes on the market, doesn't create any real buzz or competition because it's maybe priced slightly too high out of the price range of the potential buyers for your home, and then it sits on the market for months on end, and you then have to reduce your property down to a price range that actually works for the current market. So chapter 2 is meet with a mortgage advisor. So what is a mortgage advisor and where can I find one? So a mortgage advisor is someone that you're going to sit down with that's fully qualified and experienced, that will be able to look at your full financial picture. They'll be able to tell you 3 things, which is how much you can borrow, what your repayments are on that level of mortgage, and what kind of deposit you will need for a property at that sort of price range. That's then really important for you to know, because if you had in your mind that you maybe wanted to buy a property at 500,000, but the mortgage advisor then tells you that actually you could only afford a property at £400,000, then you know you need to really revisit everything and go back to the drawing board before you then move on to the next stage of the process. Usually, your estate agent can recommend a really good mortgage advisor that they work with and they're confident with, or alternatively, there's usually plenty of them around, but all I would say is check their Google reviews before you interact with one. Chapter 3 is your marketing day. So your estate agent will organise your marketing day. So you'll usually tell them a day that you might want to take off your work, or that you can have someone available, and basically just write this day off because it's going to be a busy one. So it's going to consist of 3 things. Number 1 is your photos. So the photographer will come out, he'll spend maybe an hour and a half in your property, depending on the size of it, taking really detailed photos inside and outside. Number 2 is your video. So a videographer will, again, maybe an hour and a half round your property, and will take some really nice detailed shots and wide angled shots as well of your home, and might even get the drone out depending on your property's requirements. And what the video always does is it shows a bit more than what the photos will, and the 2 combined will mean that your property is marketed really, really well. And number 3 is the home report. So a home report is where a qualified surveyor will come to your property, and they will be able to assess it a bit more in detail than what the initial valuation appointment was, and they will categorise everything as either a 1, 2 or a 3 for condition. So they will spend a bit of time on the property. They'll go up into your loft, they'll inspect the roof, and just have a general tour of your property as well. Write up the report, and that usually takes around about an hour as well. So there are 4 key elements to a home report. Number 1 is the survey. So in the survey, the surveyor is going to mark your property down for condition to say how good or bad it is. This assesses things such as the roof, the heating system, any dampness in the property, and even things like the windows. Next up, your EPC rating. An EPC is an Energy Performance Certificate, which will produce a rating, say an A, B or C, and that will show any potential buyers how energy efficient your property is, which will ultimately reflect on the bills that they're likely to pay on your property. Next is the valuation. So this valuation is slightly different to the first one that you got from the estate agent, because this is like the official valuation. And this is important because this figure is what any bank will lend up to. So if the valuation figure comes in at 475,000, any mortgage lender will only lend 475,000 and not a penny more. And last up is the property questionnaire. The property questionnaire is actually filled out by you, the owner, and it asks things like who is your energy provider, or whether you've done any alterations or not, and whether you have the paperwork for it. And it just gives really key details to the buyer that really only you will know as the owner. So all of that together makes up your marketing day, which will then get sent to your estate agent, who will start preparing your home to go on the market, which is the next stage. Chapter 4 is on the market. So this is where it gets really, really exciting for you, and the world is about to know that your house is for sale. So first up, what most estate agents will do is they'll put out a coming soon post. So that's where they'll take maybe a couple of photographs of your property, or maybe even the video that we've done before, and they'll put that up on social media. And what it does is it just kind of whets the appetite for your property. People really like it because everyone's got access to Rightmove when houses hit the market, but they like it because it's almost like they get to see it first before it hits the market. So what you'll see a lot of times is people will tag their friends that are maybe looking, or your friends and family will share it, and it just creates that buzz, which is really, really important at this stage, because this is when there's going to be the most amount of hype on your property. Then we're on to the launch. So this is where your property will go absolutely everywhere. So if you can think about the property portals, which is Rightmove, Zoopla, and lots of others, you've also got your estate agent's website, which it will hit. It should go to their database of buyers that are looking for properties like yours as well. And of course, social media, which we touched on before. So I think this is where your decision to choose an estate agent becomes vitally important, because in 2026, it's never been more important to utilise social media when selling your home. For example, at Bridges Properties, every single month we have 2 million impressions just on Facebook alone. So that's a lot of eyes that your property could be put in front of just as it hits the market. So it's super important to be able to utilise an estate agent that has great exposure on social media. Then we have the inquiry stage. So everybody wants there to be lots of inquiries on the first day that your property hits the market, which can often happen, but don't get too disheartened if it doesn't happen at this stage, because some properties are just a bit more of a slow burner. We see it all the time where that happens, and a bit of panic can creep in at this stage, but don't worry if you don't get that initial interest in the first couple of days. It doesn't always happen like that. But generally what happens is once the inquiries start to come in, they come into your estate agent, who will then handle it either over the phone or via email, and they get all the details from the buyer and book them in on the diary, which then you, as the seller, will be notified of. So you'll get that through via text or a WhatsApp message, and sometimes an email as well. And what the estate agent's job is to make sure that these inquiries are getting booked in as viewings as close together as possible, so that they're not scattered all over the place throughout the week. So it's as convenient as possible for you. So the job of an estate agent at this point is to convert people from an inquiry into a viewing. But what's really, really important to say here is that your estate agent should be vetting all buyers. What they should ask for is an agreement in principle to start with. What that is it's just a document from a mortgage lender to say that Mr. and Mrs. Smith can borrow up to X amount. And that's really important because there's no point in an estate agent booking in viewings for your property. Then it gets to a stage where we're looking to get offers out of the viewers and they don't have the financials in place to buy a property at the valuation that your property is at. So it's really important that we get that at this stage to make life a little easier further down the line. Then we've got the viewings. So this is arguably one of the most important parts of your whole process, because this is where potential buyers are going to walk around your home and see whether they like it or not. Initially, we've got the setup. So what we do at Bridges is we will arrive at your property early, so that we just look out for things like fluffing up your pillows, making sure that nothing's kind of in the way, making sure that all the lights are on. You know, if it's the summertime and maybe get a nice day, we'll have the back doors open. So just sort of setting the scene before anyone comes in to view your property. Then we have the tour. So this is where your estate agent is really, really experienced. They are experienced in showing people around properties, and there's a way that we do this that, first of all, we'll ask questions, find out what's important to that buyer. For example, if they are really, really interested in having more space for their kids, for example, we will really tailor that appointment to show them space and how much space there is in your home, maybe in the garden as well, and just really, really tailor the tour to that specific buyer. Viewings typically take anywhere between 15 minutes and an hour. So it's all dependent on the size of your property. So if you can think about a 2-bedroom flat, for example, most people can go around that in about 15 minutes. But if you've got a 4-bedroom detached home that's really big with lots of outside space, it's probably going to take closer to an hour to show someone around your property. And finally, we have the feedback. So what we do at Bridges is we will always follow up with a viewing within 24 hours of the viewing completing, unless we actually hear from the buyer before then. What that'll look like is we will phone the viewer, we'll ask them what they thought of your property and whether they would like to offer or not. That phone call can go many ways, but we'll either then start to handle an offer, or if it isn't for them, we'll find out exactly why it isn't for them, and then we can feed that back to you, the owner. And if there's anything that can maybe be changed or improved, of course, then we'll guide you on that. But sometimes it's maybe just things that are out with your control, which not everyone is going to like your property, of course. And that will be something that we will just kind of feed back to you so that you know, and then we can move on to the next one if needed. Chapter 5 is offers and negotiation. So, as I said at the beginning, every stage leads on to the next. And if everything's been done really well up until this point, it then should become a little bit easier for your estate agent to then negotiate the best price possible for your home. With offers though, there is so many different scenarios. No two offers are the same, no two house sales are the same. So there's not just a sort of generic bit of advice that I can give at this stage, because it depends on so many variable factors. What things to look out for are, how many inquiries has there been on your property. So if your home has been really busy with viewings and there's multiple offers coming in, you would handle that sale differently and you would handle that negotiation differently than you would if a property was really quiet, had been on the market for a couple of months and then one offer came in. So this is where you really need to lean on your estate agent for their expertise to be able to walk you through the negotiation process. But to give you a couple of examples, as I said, if your property has been really busy and there's offers starting to fly in for it, there's a few different ways that you can handle that. One of the ways would be to set a closing date. So you'll see that happen a lot, where an estate agent will set a specific date and time where everyone puts their best and final offers forward. They don't know what anybody else has offered. You've just got to put your best in, and then a decision has then made on those offers. So that's an official closing date that would be set. So that's one of the ways to do it. Or the other way is that the estate agent will do a almost unofficial closing date, and they will handle the offers themselves and then help you make a decision based on everyone's best and final offers too. So that is a couple of different ways that you would handle a scenario like that. So we have scenario number one, where you have multiple offers on your property. It's going really well, there's loads of competition, and it's an ideal scenario to be in. Not everyone has the benefit of being in that scenario, but it's really great when it happens. And of course, the estate agent's job is to make sure that all of these offers are maximised, so everyone is paying the best price they possibly can for your home. So great scenario to be in, and you would handle that differently to how you would scenario number two, where it's maybe been a few weeks or maybe even a few months on the market, but you finally got that offer that you've been waiting on. So because you don't have the benefit that you have in scenario number one, where there's lots of offers in, doesn't mean that the estate agent can't then negotiate this offer up to the best price that we possibly can. But of course, with all of this, it completely depends on what your circumstances are and what your goals are. If you've, for example, got an onward purchase and you need to sell really quickly, you would really look for a chain-free buyer at that point. Or if you have got time on your hands, then if someone has something to sell, for example, we can still entertain those offers and still drive the price up to make sure that these buyers are paying the best price that they possibly can. But I suppose the point is that every sale is completely different, and negotiations need to be handled in accordance to your situation and also the buyer's situation. Chapter 6 is sale agreed. So congratulations, you have accepted an offer on your property, which is fantastic, but it's not job done at this stage. There's still a lot of work to do, but we're nearly there. So generally, after you accept an offer until when someone is looking to move into your property, that's about an 8-week period, give or take, depending on the circumstances. And what this looks like is it might feel like things go quiet for a little bit of time, but really what happens is that the buyer needs to get their mortgage all through. You need to get both sides need a solicitor, and the solicitor will then do all the legal conveyancing work on the property sale as well. So there's a lot of work goes in at this stage. The estate agent's job is just to make sure that you're being kept in the loop as much as you can, and also to make sure if there's any chasing that's needing done with the buyers or any mortgage advisors or anything as well. So the estate agent can still pull the strings a little bit at this point, but it's all down to the solicitors to basically make sure that all the legal work is done to move forward towards a completion date. So this is really how the process will look at this stage. So you've got the buyer, who will then have their solicitor. You'll have the seller, you, who will have your solicitor. Both of these solicitors will be speaking to each other because they'll both be doing their work on their end of the sale to then communicate with each other. They'll be asking each other for various things that we won't generally hear about, but they'll do all the legal work at this stage. But what's really important is that you've got here, which is the estate agent, needs to be communicating with all four parties. So a lot of people think at this stage that it's just over to the solicitor, the estate agent's work's done. But here at Bridges, we like to be really proactive in that sense, so that we are, one, communicating with the buyer's solicitor, two, communicating with the seller's solicitor. 3, communicating with the buyer. And 4, communicating with you, the seller, and just making sure that everyone is communicating at this stage, because to be really honest and really transparent, this can be a bit of the painful part of the process because it goes a wee bit quiet and you wonder what's going on, and generally it's not the most proactive stage with solicitors, but we'll do our best, and your estate agent should do their best at this stage to make sure that everyone's talking to each other, to make sure that the sale is going right the way through to completion. It's important to note at this stage as well as right the way throughout the sale process at Bridges, we set up a WhatsApp chat between yourself and our team, and that's still there at this point. It becomes really important because if you're maybe struggling to get a hold of the solicitor, or your solicitor saying they've not heard from their solicitor, or whatever that might be, it's really normal for that kind of thing to happen. You can just pop a message on the WhatsApp chat. One of our team will be able to pick it up, and we'll be able to do a bit of prodding to make sure that everyone gets speaking to each other again. So it's just a really nice element of our sale process is that you've got that chat handy there. So day or night, you can pop a wee question in or saying, you know, I'm struggling with this, and we'll be able to pick it up. And often we get really nice feedback from people that have been through the process of selling their home with us, that they really like that. The 7th and final chapter is completion. Congratulations, your home has now sold. So what this looks like is the buyer's solicitor will have sent the funds over to your solicitor. They'll clear it on their end, and they will let us know that the home has officially sold, and we can now hand the keys over to the buyer. So we always celebrate this stage, of course, because this is what all the months of hard work have led up to, and we'll then give you a nice gift to thank you for trusting in us to sell your property. It's always something that we will never ever take lightly, because we understand how much it means to you to be able to put your house on the market and ultimately move you, and in most cases your family, onto whatever that next chapter for you looks like. So hopefully this video has been useful for you if you're maybe thinking about putting your property on the market. If you are, feel free to get in touch with us. We would love to help you, take you through this crazy journey of selling your property. And if you're looking for more content like this, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, maybe even subscribe to us on YouTube, and we look forward to putting more videos out like this one.